Thank you for tuning in and welcome back, team. In today's episode of Real Estate Advice, you'll learn about the 6 do's and don'ts when buying a house for sale by owner. My name is Andrew Finney, your real estate geek. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, my contact info is below. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel now and like this video. Thank you. Okay, team, so let's talk about this. Why would a trusted real estate advisor be making a video about how to buy a home for sale by owner? It's simple because depending on the inventory level in your marketplace, whether you are in a seller's market, a buyer's market, or a normalized market, for sale by owners may be present. And in fact, they're always present in any market. They just may be a little bit more prevalent whenever you start looking at a seller's market. So in a seller's market, when that happens, that means that there might not be enough homes on the market readily available or new home construction that's ready or suits your needs. So a for sale by owner might actually have the house that you're looking for. So to help you navigate this process, that's why I'm making this video for you today to help you out. So let's review 3 do's and we'll review 3 don'ts when buying a house for sale by owner, okay? So the first do is actually finding a real estate agent. This should come as no big surprise here because just because the seller hasn't chosen to work with a listing agent doesn't mean that you should follow suit. The reason being is that you should feel comfortable and confident every step of the way whenever you're in the escrow process, whether it's a new construction, whether it's a resale home, or whether it's a for sale by owner home, and have your own best interests represented. Unless you're completely comfortable and confident with dealing with everything in the real estate transaction on your own, from negotiating the contracts to putting the contracts together to doing your own buyer due diligence, then it's going to be a really good idea to have your own representation in the form of a trusted real estate advisor to assist you in making sure everything is taken care of. Among many other things, the right agent will be able to connect you with the right kind of contacts and the right kind of team, such as making sure that you have a great local loan officer, home property inspectors if you don't know of any, and other specialists that you might need, like a real estate attorney or anybody else like a handyman. There's a lot of different services that your trusted real estate advisor will be able to assist you. Now, probably a big question that pops up in your mind right now as well, if the seller isn't working with a listing agent, do I have to pay my buyer broker? And that's a great question. So that might be because in a traditional home sale, what happens is the seller typically foots the entire commission bill whenever they're listing their home. So in other words, let's just use a fictitious number here of like 7%. Let's say that the seller agreed to list their home for 7% of the total home value. And half of that would go to the buyer broker and half of that would go to the listing agent, right? So what happens is the seller pays both sides of the commission. In a for sale by owner scenario, it can be negotiated to see if the commission is being paid by the for sale by owner. In many cases, from experience, for sale by owners will typically go ahead and pay the buyer agent that does have the buyer that wishes to buy their home. In the case that doesn't happen, then you may also be able to work directly with your agent and their broker to pay them directly if that's what the situation may be, okay? The second do is to review a comparative market analysis and make sure that you're taking a look at the comparables. And this is extremely important whether it's a for sale by owner or whether it is a traditional resale property. You should always be asking your trusted real estate advisor to prepare a comparable sold summary of a home whenever you get ready to make an offer. You want to make sure that you're not overpaying for the property, and you also want to make sure that the pricing strategy of the seller, whether for sale by owner or traditional, are aligned with the current market values. Keep in mind that homes aren't commodities. So establishing a fair market value isn't as simple as plugging in an algorithm or as simple as just punching in some numbers and kicking out a new number that becomes a market value. It's not quite that simple. There's a lot of other things that have to be considered. One of the biggest challenges that for sale by owners face, according to the National Association of Realtors, is actually setting the right price on their home. They can overprice it, they can underprice it, and sometimes they get it right. But without having the tools available to trusted real estate advisors, it's very difficult for anyone to get the price right. But you as a buyer definitely want to ask your buyer agent to perform a comparative market analysis on any property that you wish to purchase, whether it's a for sale by owner or traditional property, to make sure everything's good to go. Either way, the home is going to have to appraise, and you can't get more home loan than the appraised value of that home. Hence the wisdom of having the comparative market analysis done up front. If the home is overpriced and the seller is unwilling to reduce the price to the correct price, then forego the property. unless you got money to pay out of pocket, just forgo the property and find another one. If it's that big of a property and you really, really want it, then you're going to need to account for the down payment on your loan, the buyer closing costs, plus any difference that you may need to put in if you're going to overpay for that property above a possible low appraised value. So the third do is actually to negotiate the price of the home. Now you're thinking, yeah, now Andrew, you're talking, right? Of course I want to negotiate the price. I want to get the best price possible, and if I can get a deal, heck, I'm going to be a lot happier with that too, right? So sometimes it might seem like negotiating directly with the seller is a smart approach if you were saying, if the seller's not working with an agent, I won't work with an agent, I'm going to get a better deal. Not necessarily the case, and very rare that would ever happen. And the reason being is the seller's going to want fair market value for their home regardless of paying an agent. So just because they're not paying a listing agent to list their property doesn't mean they're going to be dropping their price by that amount of money. Just because they don't have the agent involved. So something to think about there, and it's something to consider, because that is a very big reality with for sale by owner mentality as far as what they're looking at. Now, what happens is if you think that you want to negotiate directly with the seller, it might seem like having less people, what's that saying? Having less cooks in the kitchen is less hands in the pot, so it makes it easier to keep it from being convoluted and making a mistake, right? So the thing is, it could be a little bit awkward if you don't have a direct buffer, because what happens is that you have to find that price that you both feel is fair, and determining the price that's fair, it's going to largely dictate and be predicated upon the comparative market analysis that we mentioned in the second do of this video. So it's really, really important to make sure that you have your own best interest represented, especially as a first-time home buyer, or if you haven't bought and sold maybe at least 20 homes over the course of your lifetime, then you might really appreciate the wisdom and insights your trusted real estate advisor can provide and ensure that you're taken care of. So now let's move on into the 3 don'ts of the for sale by owner process. The first don't is, please don't forget to get a loan pre-approval letter. It's very, very important to make sure that you have your financing in check. You're still going to, unless you're buying cash, you're going to need to have a loan pre-approval letter. Now, with that loan pre-approval letter, what that shows the seller is that you have been financially pre-approved to purchase a home up to X number of dollars. In this case, let's call it like $300,000, right? You've been financially pre-approved to purchase a home for up to $300,000. If they're listing their home for $300,000, this makes sense to them, and they're going to be much more comfortable with accepting an offer from you. If you don't have that and you don't have your financial stuff taken care of, it's highly unlikely, just like in a traditional resale, that a seller is going to even bother with you or the offer. Why go through all the trouble of putting together an offer if you're not financially pre-approved? So working with a trusted real estate advisor, they'll be able to introduce you to a top local loan officer that will be able to explain your options to you and share what they think might be the best fit for you based upon your circumstances and needs, so that you can make the best decision possible for you. Something to think about, you always need to have that loan pre-approval done up front first before you go out and actually look at homes. There's no point in looking at any homes. I know it can get exciting, but there's not any point in looking at any homes until you have your pre-approval done, because if you love that house, you can't write an offer on it without a loan pre-approval letter. Savvy homeowners will be expecting you to have a loan pre-approval letter, okay? So the second don't is don't waive your contingencies, specifically your home inspection and your appraisal contingencies. Don't waive them. Inspections are extremely, extremely important. Whenever a seller lists a home for sale by owner, they may not know about the seller's real property disclosure report, or they may not know where to get it or how to process it, and they might completely overlook it. Some people may do it intentionally, and other people simply don't know. And if they don't know the process, it's kind of to be expected, because they're not working with a professional listing agent. So if they're not working with a trusted real estate advisor, what happens is there's a lot of things that are open to question, and you want to make sure that not only are they disclosing material defects with the property to the best of their knowledge since the time they've owned that property, but you also want to make sure that you're having a licensed professional home inspector go in and take a really, really, really strong look at that property to make sure there's nothing massively wrong with it. Then you want to submit a repair request. So all of this documentation and stuff we're talking about, your buyer agent, your trusted real estate advisor, is going to know how to process for you and assist you with it. There's a lot of stuff that goes on here, but you don't want to leave your inspection contingency on the table and forgo it, because What happens if they had a leaky roof? Or what happens if the AC doesn't work or the heater doesn't work? Those are big ticket items that are going to cost you a lot of money when you close in the time that you realize, hey, I should have got a home inspection. That stuff doesn't work, and now we're struggling to find the money to pay for it. That's not a cool situation to be in, so let's make sure that doesn't happen to you. You also want your appraisal contingency in place. Very simple, because you can't get more home loan than the appraised value. So if that same $300,000 home from the earlier example was only worth $270,000 and the seller wants $300,000 and you waived an appraisal contingency, they're expecting you to pony up the additional $30K. That's not cool. So then the third don't is, please do not ever hand your earnest money deposit directly to a seller. What happens with your earnest money deposit is that you should be wiring it or depositing a check into the escrow account, either directly by giving your earnest money check directly to the escrow officer or to your buyer agent to give to the escrow company, or you can simply just wire it. Wiring it is a very common way of depositing an earnest money deposit, by the way. Just make sure that you're always verifying the account and routing information from the escrow officer with the escrow officer, okay? So please don't do that. Okay, so this has been a video about 6 do's and don'ts when buying a home for sale by owner. Tell me about your thinking about this video in the comment section below. What point really stuck out to you? Was it the importance of making sure you have representation of your best interests with a trusted real estate advisor? Or was it the fact that you should always have a comparative market analysis done on a property you wish to purchase? Or perhaps it was going into the don'ts with making sure that you get your pre-approved letter and that you don't try to go look for homes without one? Tell me what you're thinking in the comment section below. Now, I'm going to go ahead and pop up my contact information. If you need help finding a top agent where you live, or if you simply want to drop me a line to say hello, please let me know. I always love to hear from you. Now, if you haven't already done so, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things. Number 1, please subscribe to this channel. Number 2, please like this video. And number 3, please share this video around with someone you know is going to be able to help. I'm sure right now you could think of just one person that's really going to benefit from this video. Please go ahead and share it with them right now. Thank you. So in between now and next time, I'm wishing you and yours a lifetime full of love, wealth, abundance, and happiness. See you soon, team.